Good morning, students. Welcome back to Biology class, Chapter 2, Part 5, Sexual Reproduction in Flowering Plants. Flowers are mainly responsible for sexual reproduction in that fertilization and seed formation. To facilitate the fertilization, it is necessary that the male gamete, pollen grain from anther, and the female gametophyte or embryo sac from ovary brought together. You know that both the gametes are non-motile. That means gametes do not have locomotory organs. Then, how the pollen grains will reach the stigma of the ovary for fertilization? Now, we will discuss about that. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a pistil or carpel with the help of agents like wind, water, insects, etc. are termed as pollination. Okay, what is pollination? Transfer of the pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the carpel or the pistil with the help of the agents, because they are the non-motile. Agents are required. Agents are the biotic or abiotic, living or non-living, are termed as pollination. What is pollination? Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a pistil with the help of agents like wind, water, insects are termed as pollination. Flowering plants have evolved different adaptation to achieve this pollination. Now we will discuss about the types of pollination. Pollination can be divided into mainly three types. First one, it is the autogamy or self-pollination. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the same flower is called autogamy or self-pollination. So listen, transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the same flower. In this type of pollination will occur in a bisexual flower. What is a bisexual flower? Stamens or pistils are present in the same flower is called the bisexual flower. Autogamy in such flowers requires synchrony in pollen release and stigma receptivity. That means pollen dehiscence and stigma maturity should be in same time. Pollen should be mature and also dehiscence, and stigma also mature and ready to receive. That is called the receptivity. So here synchronization is required. Then next point, the third point, the anthers and stigma should lie close to each other so that the self-pollination can occur easily. See, listen, now again we'll discuss what are the characters of autogamous or self-pollinated flowers. First one, it should be a bisexual flower. Second point, synchrony in pollen release and stigma receptivity. The third point, what's the third point? The anthers and stigma should lie close to each other. Okay, some of the plant produce two types of the flowers. That is the examples. We'll see that one. What are the two types of flowers will produce it? First one is oxalis, viola, camelina, arachis hypogaea or groundnut plant. See this one. These are the plants are producing two types of the flowers. First one, it is the chasmogamous flower, which are similar to the other flowers, other species, with exposed anther and stigma. Okay, see that one, chasmogamous flowers means which are similar to the other flowers of the plants. They are exposing the anther and stigma. When the anther dehiscence in the flower, pollen grains come in contact with the stigma. Self-pollination will take place. Second type of flowers are producing other oxalis, viola, camellia. These are the plants are producing. Second type of the flower, that is called the cleistogamous flower, which do not open at all. This flower, it is in the bud-like structure, it is present inside. Their petals will open, but inside the structure, they do not open at all, where the pistil or carpel or the stamens are present. That portion do not open at all. In this type of flowers, anthers and stigma lie close to each other. When the anthers dehiscence in the flower bud, pollen grains come in contact with the stigma to the self-pollination. There is no chance for the cross-pollen landing on the stigma because these flowers do not open at all. And also cleistogamous flowers, in the absence of pollinators, pollination will take place. So what are the importance of these flowers? These flowers do not open at all and there is no chance for the cross-pollination, and there the pollinators are absent. There is no pollination in the cleistogamous flowers. These oxalis, viola, camellia, arachis, hypogaea plant. These are the plants are producing two types of the flowers. One is the chasmogamous flower, that is the normal flower. Second, it is the cleistogamous flower. That type of the flower do not open at all. Then the second type of the pollination is called geitonogamy. Geitonogamy means, listen, transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of another flower of the same plant. The plant contains one or two flowers are present in the same plant. There, the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the another flower of the same plant. Okay, there is a chances for cross-pollination also is there, but normally if it is the same pollen grains are present, then it is a chance for the self-pollination. Okay, pollen grains are genetically it is similar. Pollen grains are coming from the same plant. Okay, that is called geitonogamy. What is autogamy? Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the same flower. Geitonogamy, transfer of the pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the another flower of the same plant. Now the third type of pollination is called xenogamy. Xenogamy means the cross-pollination. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a different plant. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a different plant is called cross-pollination. Compulsory, they require the pollinators is required. So this one is the xenogamy. They are giving the flowers genetically different types. The pollen grains will land on that stigma. There is a genetic recombination. Variety will get it up. So what are the agents of pollination? There are two types of the agents are present. First one, it is the abiotic, wind and water, and the biotic ones, living ones, animals to achieve the pollination. So, what are the abiotic and biotic agents for the pollination? Majority of the plants use biotic agents for pollination. Very small type of plants use the abiotic agents. Pollen grains coming in contact with the stigma is a chance of factor in the wind and water pollination. To compensate for this uncertainty and associated loss of pollen grains, the flowers produce large number of pollens when compared to the number of ovules available for pollination. Normally, pollen grains will produce thousands of pollen grains will produce it. The ovule is produced one or two, very less, because through the pollination for the transport of the male gametes, there is no certainty to reach the stigma of the same flower. So there is an uncertainty is present. So the flowers are producing large number of pollen grains compared to the female gametes. Now next we will discuss about the pollination by wind. Pollination by wind is also called anemophilous. Anemophilous meaning transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a flower with the help of wind. Okay, we'll see that one. Wind pollination requires what are the characters of wind pollinated flowers? We'll see that one. Wind pollinated flowers, the pollen grains are lightweight. Weights are very light it is, and non-sticky. There is no sticky ones. Then second point, stigma is large and feathery. Why it is? To trap the pollen grains. And also they have a single ovule in each ovary and numerous flowers packed into an inflorescence. So what are the characters of wind pollinated or anemophilous flowers? Pollen grains are light and non-sticky, and they are colorless. It may be colorful or colorless. That is not a point of view. Main points are pollen grains are light and non-sticky. Stigma is large and feathery to trap the pollen grains. They have a single ovule in each ovary and numerous flowers packed into an inflorescence. What is the meaning of inflorescence? Flower stalk. Examples for the wind pollinated flowers is the corn cob and the grasses. They also have some important points are there. The corn cob, the tassels. What is the meaning of a tassel? Tassel of a flower is the male flower present at the tip of the corn stalk. You know that corn maize. In the stalk, a tip portion like a feathery-like structures are present. It produces pollen which is carried by wind to female flowers for the pollination. So that it is carrying for the pollination, it is helping. So and also in the grasses also the wind pollination is taking place. Now next we will discuss about the pollination by water. The pollination by water is also called hydrophilic. So listen, transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a flower with the help of water is called hydrophily. Water is a regular mode of transport of the male gametes in algae, bryophytes and some of the pteridophytes. You know that one. Already you have studied. Some of the examples of water pollinated plants are the Vallisneria, Hydrilla, then it is water hyacinth. We'll see that one, what are the plants it is. Now we'll discuss about one plants. First one, Vallisneria, hydrophilic plants. How it is adapted for that one, for the mechanism, the plant, how it is adapted for the water pollination. In Vallisneria, pollination is epihydrophily, means the female flowers reach the surface of water by the long stalk and the male flowers are released on the surface of water. The pollen grains are releasing inside the water. They have a long stalk is there that is present above the water level. So the pollen grains will, it is through the water currents it will move and it is reaching to the female flowers, the stigma for the pollination. See, listen how the Vallisneria is adapted for the pollination. It is the female flowers reach the surface of water by the long stalk and the male flowers are released on the surface of water. Pollen grains carried by the water currents and some of them eventually contact with the female flowers and its stigma to bring about the pollination. We'll discuss about the next example. Next hydrophilic example is seagrass. In seagrass, pollination is hypohydrophily. Male and female gametes are present completely inside the water. That is called hypohydrophily. The female flowers remain submerged in water and the pollen grains are released inside the water. Pollen grains are long, ribbon-like, and they are carried passively inside the water. Some of them reach the stigma and achieve the pollination. There is a chance for the pollination. In the seagrass, that is the hypohydrophily. In the Vallisneria, it is the epihydrophily is present. What is hydrophily? Hydrophily is the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma with the help of water. So, two examples we discussed. Now we know that one how this pollen grains are protected inside the water. We should see they are protected from wetting by it. The pollen grains are covered with a mucilaginous cover. They are covering with the where there is a slimy nature covering is they have, that is the mucilaginous by wetting and protected the pollen grains. Now we will discuss about the some of the aquatic plants like water hyacinth, water lily, but their pollination is not taking place through the hydrophily. In these cases, but they are the aquatic plants. They are the aquatic plants, but the pollination is taken through the wind or the other type of the insects. Why it is? How it is? We'll see that one. In water hyacinth and water lily, the flowers are present above the level of the water and are pollinated by the insects or wind, like most of the land plants. Listen here, the water hyacinth or water lily, the flowers are present above the level of the water and are pollinated by male and female. The flower itself, it is present above the level of the water. So, the pollination by the insects or wind. These are the two things we are, the abiotic agents we have discussed. So now this class we have discussed about the types, what is pollination, types of pollination and the agents too we discussed. Thank you.